Welcome to The Freight Break with your host, Dan Lindsey, the podcast that cuts through the noise of the trucking industry. We're talking real conversations, real relationships, and real insight that keep the wheels turning.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of The Freight Break, the flagship podcast of the Broker Carrier Summit and the BCS Freight Network, the fastest, most dynamic, most authentic, and most trusted network within the North American freight industry. If you are not following us, you should. If you are a logistics professional, truck driver, dispatcher, freight broker, if you work for a logistics support company, as well, happy to have you. We have a fantastic show for you today. I'm going to be chatting with my good friend Charles Gracey about podcasting, about influencing. We're going to break it down from his perspective on what some of the challenges are in the industry. We're also going to have our first ever segment of freight therapy. So you didn't ask for it, but you're welcome anyway. Freight therapy on the show today. But first, before we get into the weeds, let's go ahead and kick it over to our sponsor, TIE Software.
Meet TIE Software's workflow automation, built to help LTL and FTL freight brokers boost productivity. Use custom prompts to automate repetitive tasks like status updates, carrier changes, and shipment alerts right in the platform. Manage operations with automated scheduling, carrier management, and real-time updates. Workflow automation removes bottlenecks, freeing you up to grow your business. Best of all, it's easy to set up and use. No coding or tech skills required. Choose your workflows and TIE does the rest. Book a demo today and see how TIE makes efficiency happen.
Also, a quick reminder, if you have not yet signed up for the next Broker Carrier Summit, we are going to be in Orlando October 28th to the 30th. This is an event you will not want to miss. It is quickly becoming the best, most profitable, most valuable week in freight. So if you have not signed up yet, go to our website, www.brokercarriersummit.com or bcsfreightnetwork.com and sign up today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Freight Therapy. If you've been in the freight industry for longer than 5 minutes, you know there are a whole host of challenges that are unique to our industry. And let's just be honest, after a while, it gets a little overwhelming, and all of us can use a little therapy session every now and again. So we've created this segment specifically for the freight professionals who want to share their stories, want to get their thoughts out there, maybe just want to vent every once in a while. But we're going to start this. Hopefully it's valuable. Hopefully it's a little entertaining. But we're going to start it off with a fairly easy question from a new broker. He says, "Hey, freight therapist, I am a broker who is relatively new to the industry. How do you build trust with carriers?" Now, I know I said we were going to start off with an easy question, but this is also, I'm going to say, a very loaded question. Building trust with carriers is just like building trust with anybody else, whether it's your brother, your sister, your mother, your wife, your husband, whatever it might be. Building trust requires two main things. It requires communication and it requires authenticity. You have to be able to communicate accurately and quickly and completely with your partners. Okay, so brokers, if a carrier requests information from you, okay, and you have the information, super complicated neuroscience, brain surgeon type stuff here. If you have the information, brokers, give them the information. These carriers are your partners. They are your vendors. In many ways, you need to treat them like they're your customers. So if they need information to be able to do their job, which makes you look better, by the way. If they're able to do their job quickly, efficiently, effectively, and for the right price, that means in your customer's eyes, you're able to do that as well. And so if you have the information, share it with your carrier partners. If you don't have the information, hot take here, don't bullshit your way through the call, or don't try and fudge your way through not having the information. If you don't have the information that your carriers need, simply say, you know what, that's a fantastic question. I don't have that right now, but give me 5 minutes, give me half an hour, give me 3 days, however long it takes, and I'll get that information to you. So communication is going to be very important. One of the things that we hear all the time from both freight brokers and carriers and drivers and dispatchers is they wish that their partners would communicate better with them. The second thing is just be authentic, be yourself. I tell my sales teams this all the time when it comes to prospecting, when it comes to cold calling, when it comes to talking to shippers or whoever, carriers it might be. You will naturally attract the people who will naturally want to work with you. So don't try and be anyone other than yourself. Everyone has a unique personality. You're naturally going to work with some people better and more effectively than others. So lean into that. Let your partners know, let your carriers know who you are. Let them know what your priorities are, and also let them know how you're trying to do business with them and for them. So 2 things to build trust with your carriers: communication and authenticity. If you want more information about this, we also have a series of blog posts on the bcsfreightnetwork.com called The 10 Commandments of Successful Freight Partnerships. I highly recommend you check it out. www.bcsfreightnetwork.com/blog. You do have to be a subscriber, so go ahead and head over to the website and subscribe. Any more questions on this, happy to take them. This has been your episode of Freight Therapy. All right, welcome to the segment Breaking It Down. And this week, I am super excited to break it down with my good friend, Charles Gracey. Charles, how are you, my friend?
I'm here. I'm alive. I'm kicking. I'm on your show. I'm not hosting a show, which is kind of cool for this time.
That's new for you, right? I mean, you're usually in my seat, so I'm looking forward to the critiques afterwards when we can in the green room where you can give me some pointers, because everybody knows this is not Dan Lindsey's forte. So,
oh, you do a great job.
I try. Just stumble through things, just like life. Just stumble through life. So how have you been? So it's been about, a month and a half since we've been together. You were with us at the BCS. You and Paul joined us to help us organize our podcast studio. How was that experience for you?
Honestly, I love everything about your organization and the show. The BCS was one of those things. I got invited the last one when it was in Fort Worth. And I had no idea what to expect. You heard me say it a couple times. You know, to me, the first time I heard a broker carrier summit, I thought it was the beginning of a bad bar joke. Like brokers,
actually,
carriers.
It kind of was with Bane and I.
Yeah, and there wasn't one single thing that stood out at first. It was everything stood out, and that was what caught me off guard. From the format to the content to the people. So then I'm like, oh, well, now I've seen it all. And then I went to the last one in Indy, and it just raised the bar again. It was great content, great people. I wound up actually being part of the content. That was a fun experience. But then there's even the after the summit stuff, like just from that conversation and time we spent to, slow things down when we were at the cigar lounge and it's all of it encompassed together. It's a really cool movement. It's a really cool experience. And I highly advocate for everyone to go there, dip your toes in the water. There's no wrong answer. There's no wrong conversation to be part of.
Yeah. That's one of the things that really, I think, sets the summit, and not just the event itself, but the people who you mentioned are a part of it, is that the desire for genuine, authentic relationship and conversation, and having business emanate from those authentic relationships and conversation, is stronger at the BCS than I personally have seen anywhere else in the industry. And that's really where a lot of the value is.
I go to a lot of these things, and it's a perk of the job, hazard of the job, depending on some of them feel like college benders. The people and the conversations taking place there are different groups of people than historically what I see at these places. Like, there's not many conferences I personally go to where there's brokers. And if there are brokers and someone's like, what do you do? I work in ops. Here it's, I'm a broker. They come out of their show. They're proud of it.
Yeah.
They'll talk about it. If anything, I, at the first one, felt like I was out of place, being on the recruiting side of things, the HR side of things, the marketing side. And then even I was welcomed. There was a lot of conversations that I was part of that I didn't think would be happening there.
Yeah.
So it was just refreshing to see a lot of different conversations. People weren't talking about the same old stuff. It was all new conversations. I learned a whole bunch. I tell people all the time, I've worked every aspect of trucking except brokerage.
Yeah.
If you want to look at me and see me look like a deer in the headlights, start talking brokerage stuff. It's something I've always wanted to learn. I'm just not willing to take a pay cut to go learn something. It's one of those things I see myself in 5-10 years, like shadowing someone on weekends to learn brokerage just for shits and giggles.
Just to see. Wait, I thought brokers were making all the money. Wait a minute, what's going on? You got to take a pay cut to become a broker? That goes against
Yeah,
all
right?
the narratives. What's going on?
Well, if you're a good recruiter, you're okay.
Gotcha. Well, that's the thing too, that you come from the recruiting side, the HR side, the trucking side. You drove a truck for how long did you drive
Yeah.
a truck?
8 years.
8 years. Okay, so that's this is one of the reasons why you and I, when we get together and we talk, I love hearing your perspective because I was never a driver, right? My dad was a driver. He drove for UPS for 30 years. So he drove a package car. He had a route, but not really an over the road experience in the same way as an interstate carrier would have. So I love gathering information from you on what do drivers care about? What do carriers care about? What's important to this side of the industry? Because that's really where where the BCS was born out of, was having conversations that cross all the aisles. It's something that we don't do a lot of. Brokers don't go to carrier events. Carriers don't go to broker events. I'll say it. White guys don't go to Uzbek events. Uzbeks don't go to white guy events. Mexicans don't go to American events. And if we're going to thrive as an industry, we need to bring all parties together so that we can learn from each other. 'Cause that's the only way we're going to get out of the doldrums that we're in.
Well, and if you were going to have a poster child for that, that would be me, in my opinion, because I built my career doing exactly that. I was the token American in an Eastern European Chicago-based trucking market. I remember I was a driver. I got plucked out of the truck. I swear that the safety guy, great dude, still a friend of mine to this day, he obviously never thought I drove that truck because it was so clean inside. What he didn't know at the time when we first met is I took pride in my rig. I spent a good amount of my time in it. So I would clean my floors once a week with a scrub bucket full of soap and a brush. And he had me design a training program. I really enjoyed doing that. And then I learned a lot of the office stuff. I moved into safety. I dabbled in recruiting the first time, and I got my wrist slapped. I was a full Eastern European outfit at Chicago, and I wanted that recruiting bonus. So I went and put a Craigslist ad out, and they're like, "You can't do that." And I'm like, "It says where? It doesn't say that anywhere in there. Are you mad with the results?" But that was when I first got into recruiting. Then I went to work for this outfit out of Chicago, a company called ARCA.
Mm-hmm.
And I started there as a recruiter, and it was baptism by fire. It was here's a 10 Street account. Here's what we do. Hire us drivers. I had to teach myself. That's where really my in-depth passion for recruiting got sparked. I got to make it my own. I either got to fail on my own or succeed on my own. And then I figured out I didn't have to do it on my own. I started doing cold outreach, but not to drivers, to people in the industry that were doing the same job. People like Casey Bellman, people like Jeremy Reimer, people like Greg Iverson.
Is building your team out, essentially.
I saw them posting content before content was the big thing in the recruiting side. They were just posting, and I picked their brains. And some people were receptive to helping someone on the outside. Some people weren't. Some people just gave you the cold shoulder. The funny thing is, come full circle, fast forward, I had worked my way up, built a company. Now I'm the guy on the stage speaking. And some of the people that had given me help are now sitting in the courses I'm teaching. And they're my biggest critics, but also my hugest supporters.
Yeah.
And then some of the people that gave me a cold shoulder were also sitting in there. And I kind of regret doing that. And so it really molded me into who I am, because I know how that felt to reach out to people and just get a cold shoulder when you're just trying to figure it out. And I'd love to say that was unique to me, but there's a lot of people that get thrown off the deep end in trucking.
Oh yeah, and whatever segment of the industry you're in. One of the things that you touched on that I think is super important is, and it speaks to the level of quality of conversations, relationships that are had at the BCS, but it speaks to a larger conversation at whole when it comes to the industry, is pride you take in your work. You mentioned cleaning your floor of your rig with the scrub bucket every week. I was in Monterrey, Mexico 2 weeks ago, talking with some carriers down there, and the level of pride and dedication that they bring to their work. I mean, there was one guy who he showed us he built a custom garage like for his trucks with a tequila bar on the second floor. Like this garage was nicer than my first two homes. Right. And this is just for his trucks. But if you open the truck up, it's immaculate. And this is his Sunday drive. He just drives around with his rig, and in the door is embroidered Alejandra. It's the name of his daughter. And so like taking pride in your work is like taking pride in your family and your kids. And the best people in this industry are dedicated to that. And it's just so cool to see.
Well, it is. Those relationships, those conversations are important. And you hear a lot of people talk about how do we make trucking sexy again? It is sexy. You just have
More
to know
bald
where to
men,
look.
I think, is what we need to do.
Hey, now. Hey. Mine started to do a retreat, and I had to stop that. Now instead of having dreams, I have motion pictures. But no, seriously, it is sexy. You just have to know where to look. And it's just like bad doctors, good doctors. I say that all the time. There's good trucking companies. There's bad ones. There's good recruiters. There's bad ones. There's good brokers.
Mm-hmm.
There's bad ones. And I don't think I'd ever been able to say that until I attended the BCS. But it is one of those things where this is one of the industries I feel very passionate about. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate is you get what you put into it. If you take pride in your job,
Mm-hmm.
if you're willing to have those tough conversations, and if you're willing to learn from the constructive criticism and not take it personally, then you as an individual will make yourself better. And in turn, the organizations that you keep or work for will be better. And the organizations need to also do the same thing. They need to support their people.
Yes.
It's one of those things where right now we're not in a great market. So a lot of people are like, oh, we're shutting down trade shows. We're shutting down shows for people. I think that's a terrible mistake.
Mm-hmm.
This is the time to invest in your people. Send them to places where they're going to learn, have those important conversations, and cultivate that into meaningful change.
Yeah. Well, and your story is a story of that kind of growth, because not only have you been able to move, from, driving a truck to the recruiting side, but you're owning your own recruiting company. Now you're a podcast host for the industry. And now you just landed a new show on Sirius. Let's talk about that. So now you're like an industry. You've been an industry voice for a while, but now your platform is absolutely massive. Let's talk about that, because that's super exciting.
Yeah, so Sirius is great. It's a different machine for sure. So I went from doing a podcast once a week and being guest on people's podcasts periodically to I'm talking on the radio for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern time on Sirius Road Dog Trucking Radio. The team has been great. The support over there, not only from the other hosts on the network, but from the actual Sirius team, fantastic. The new show is called Trucking Sense. It's on channel 146 weekdays and then replays on weekends from 6 to 9. And the goal with the show was to kind of update the voice of trucking. Yeah. Historically, you got the same players in there. You got the same conversations. Nothing wrong with those conversations, but trucking's face has changed. Its identity changes over time. And as such, should the voices that represent it. I took a different approach. I'm giving the platform back to the listeners. Anything that they wanted to hear is what we're bringing. And I like to refer to my listenership as the Jake Brake Nation. I even have this cool little tagline, thanks to all of our friends out there, that the louder they get, the harder we roll. That's kind of my style. I like to hit hard. We did it when it launched the first week. So our first topic for day one was the driver shortage.
Did you come to a conclusion as to whether or not there was a driver shortage?
Are we allowed to swear at any extent on this?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's all bullshit. Yeah, I mean, if people are buying into that, then I got a truck stop full of unicorns that you could buy. No, I mean, legitimately, I've never believed in it, but I always like hearing different perspectives of it. And I brought people from different sides to share their perspective. What we've set out to do with the show was give that conversation back to the listenership. So on Mondays, we got the owner or the operator's edge with OIDA every Monday. On Tuesdays, we got Trucking Story Time with Ron Witherspoon. I wanted to still pay tribute to the drivers that have been there and paved the way, and this guy has done it for years. He's now retired, and he's got stories for days. I want him to tell those stories. I mean, they're going to be great stories. This is an old bull hauler.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wednesdays, we got Next Gen Trucking Association doing the next shift, and then right after that, we got a mutual friend of ours, Drive to Thrive with Mike Lombard.
Love Mike.
Yeah.
That dude's intense.
Oh, I am so excited to have him and Lindsey Trent on Wednesdays, because Lindsay's whole thing is, how do we bring drivers into the industry in the right way? That's her whole organization. And Lombard's thing is, how do we retain them through health and both physical and mental health?
And those are some of the conversations that, let's be just completely blatantly honest. Those are conversations that have been had extremely poorly over the last 30 to 40 years. And so I think when it comes to changing, you mentioned changing the face of the industry or changing the voice of the industry. I think it's important that the newer generation of professionals and leaders who are coming up in this industry be willing and able to take that mantle and say, you know what, if we're gonna change the voice and change the face of the industry, this is how we're gonna do it. And we've seen a new generation of leaders that are willing, that they're eager to embrace these hard conversations, and the conversations that have not been taken care of in a very good way for a very long time.
Well, that's exactly it. You know, that was just like for Thursdays, we got Jake Breaks and Boots, Tony Justice. His whole segment on our show is to highlight the talent in the industry, give them a platform so they can extend their brand. And we want those voices out there. That's how we have these conversations. I'm not the guy that knows everything, but I know someone that does.
Right.
They might not know everything, but they know something about what we might be talking about that day. And then on Fridays, I got another mutual friend of ours. We're doing Legally Loaded with Matt Leffler.
Legally Loaded. Is there going to be booze involved in that one?
No.
Okay.
FCC stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, you're regulated, so we're not regulated on this show.
That's
what we should do. We should bring you on this show fairly often, just so you can vent.
Ooh.
That could be fun.
That could be.
I tell you what, we're gonna leave it there with that little teaser. Maybe Charles Gracey will be back on the show every once in a while to vent to the BCS Freight Network community. We'll see how that goes. All right, thank you very much, everyone. This was Breaking It Down. Thanks to Charles again for joining us. I know you have a very busy and demanding schedule, so always good talking with you, my friend. And I will see you hopefully sooner rather than later. I know I'm going to see you in Orlando. But hopefully we'll get a chance to chat before then.
Absolutely. I appreciate coming on and keep doing all the amazing things you guys are doing.
All right, that wraps up our show for today, everyone. Thank you very much again for joining us. And again, if you have not signed up yet for the Broker Carrier Summit, early bird pricing is still in effect through August 27th. Visit us at www.brokercarriersummit.com/events to sign up today. So until next time, everyone, take care.